shoot, I can't see the. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Parker, as you may or may not know. Um, so today I'm giving a presentation on the Via Ferrata in the Dolomites, which I had the pleasure of doing in 2024. Yes, I am. Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to. Is there an LVMC YouTube channel? I'll have to create one.
Created social media master.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're going to go over what is a Via Ferrata, learn about the Alta Via 4, which is the trail that I did, well, packing and travel planning, and the day by day. So what is Via Ferrata? It's Italian for iron path. You typically use a set like this to clip into steel cables along a route. And this has like little things you can depress and clip on the cable, and you're always clipped to one while you're clipping to another. And this just goes on your standard climbing harness. And the Via Ferrata I encountered where there's like ladders, there's typical. It's like I feel like it's a lot of like the scrambling we do, just with like a cable next to it. Like they could put cables all over Red Rock and call them Via Ferratas. It's kind of fun because you feel like I'm like, oh, this is hard. I mean, some of the stuff actually does get pretty hard, but sometimes you're just like, oh, I don't really need this. There's over 950 Via Ferratas in Europe, so definitely a hot spot for it. We have a lot less here. Great question. If you visit, I'll send the slides out later, but there's a website that shows like all the yeah, and they said there's like 950. So yeah. The scale is like, I think it starts at 1 and goes up to 5, and then there's like a second letter that I think maybe denotes length. I'll try to talk about it a little bit as I go through the like what I experienced. So there's a few different treks if you're interested in doing a multi-day thing, which is what I did, that you can check out. Include the Tour de Mont Blanc here because I think that's what originally got me started on looking. Like I was like, oh, I want to do some big European adventure trek, and Tour de Mont Blanc is like I've known people who've done it. It sounds like really awesome, and you go around the Mont Blanc, but there's no Via Ferratas, and I just wanted to sort of like I want something a little bit more. So I don't have it on here. The Alta Via 1 is another one I looked at. It's similar to Tour de Mont Blanc. I think it's similar in length. No Via Ferratas. Alta Via 2 has some Via Ferratas, but it was really long. And I think the Via Ferratas on the Alta Via 2 are not that challenging. And the Alta Via 4, like I was like, oh, what's hard? Like, what can I do harder than that? I came up with the Alta Via 4, and it's so for Alta Via 2, you can actually book. Booking was sort of one of the things I thought was really intimidating. And there are tour companies you can do that'll just like book you on the Alta Via 2 and book you all the refugios and give you all the you can sort of self guide on it for a certain fee, and then you can pay more to have guided. And when I would inquire to people about like, hey, can I do this with the Alta Via 4? They're like, we won't, for like liability reasons. We have to have you like guided. So I was like, well, I guess I'll have to figure out how to do it myself, which I did end up doing. So it's about what is the Alta Via 4 is about 60 miles. As I said, it's one of the more technically challenging ones. 22,000 feet of elevation gain. There are some of it is like military routes that were established during World War I to help soldiers traverse the terrain. And one of the things about the Alta Via 4 is the Via Ferratas are not optional. You have to go through them if you want to do the whole route. And the non-optional ones, there's one non-optional one that is definitely no joke. Although there were like people, I experienced people on the trail who had never done anything like that before. So like it is possible to like not have done anything like that before and do it, but definitely don't want to be afraid of heights, I think. So when would you go? I think it's similar to all I think the elevation of like I checked one of the refugios or the whole thing I think is around 8,000 feet. So as you can imagine, they get a lot of snow. So late June is probably when the season kind of opens up. That's when the huts open. July and August. I mean, August has the warmest weather, but also all the Europeans, as if you've ever worked with those damn Europeans, they're always on vacation during those months. I feel like they get the whole they get the whole summer off or whatever. So you're going to be fighting with them. So I picked September. So there's like less. In theory, there's less people. In reality, I mean, it was still busy, but it's also a little bit cooler. So I was definitely not wearing shorts during this. So your home on the Alta Via 4 are the Refugios. Oh, and I'm going to mispronounce like my Italian. Like I learned very little. Grazia is about all I got. So yeah, so I'm going to butcher everything. But the Refugios are the mountain huts. You can't tent camp there, although I did meet people who were tent camping. It's just illegal. I think as long as you're sort of like set up late and tear down early, you're good to go. And yeah, so they're pretty cool, these mountain huts. I mean, I wish we had something like this where you can go and have a nice hot meal in the middle of your like adventure. As I said, the booking seemed really intimidating to me because I'm a nerd and I'm like, I want a website where I have little calendar icons and just be like, is it available? Book it. And that was definitely not what this is all about. All these refugios are run by like, I met one family who'd been doing it for many years, and they have an email address basically. That's how you book them, is you like a hope and a prayer and an email, and then you want to do it. I think I did mine in late April for September, so I think like 4 months in advance, something like that. And I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna, and I needed like 4 nights or whatever, so I just emailed them all at the same time and just hope they had like a room, and they all did. And some of them require a deposit, and then some of them are just like, cool, you're good to go, and you're like, are you like really like just gonna show up and you're gonna hold this room for whatever? So yeah, it's very old school in that way. I got everything I did was half board, which includes your breakfast and dinner. And I think the price was like, it's like between 55 euros and 75 euros, includes your sleeping space, which I did mine solo. So like I was just in dorms, and you can pay a little bit more to get like a small room or private rooms, which aren't always available. Yeah. Even though it's full board, yeah. Dinner, right? Breakfast and no lunch. No lunch though. So is that maybe that's the half? I don't know. So the picture on the left is like an example of a dorm room. I wish I should have included. There's another one of the huts I stayed in is just like there was basically like it was like an outhouse like with no heat, and like there were 2 rows of bunks. And when I say bunks, it was like a board and then another board, and the beds were literally like touching each other. Like and by bed I mean like it was like a 2-inch thick, whatever, and a pillow. Like, and you're like rubbing elbows with your neighbor in the middle of the night. So that was fun. And yeah, and because everybody's like hiking, it doesn't exactly smell the best. And like it was rainy, and so you got rainy stuff. So yeah, it's good times. But yeah, you get you have to bring a little sleeping sack for hygiene, because these things do not get washed. So yeah, can't be a germaphobe, I think, for this. That's for sure. The refugios for the facilities. When you go in, there's like a boot room in all of them, and you do have to bring one. You have to, if you're go up to the rooms, you have to store your boots, whatever you're wearing, and you have to bring a second pair of like clean shoes, some sort of thing to put on your feet. Water. So you can either pay for bottled water, and there would be free tap water. A lot of times it would be labeled non-potable. Like I feel like they're just trying to get money out of you though, because it's like like it'd be labeled non-potable, but if you were staying there, they're like, oh yeah, you can drink the water. Like it was like, oh, if you're a day traveler, like you can't have the water. And but I mean and then there was another thing I heard, which was like, oh, try to get it from the kitchen, because like that's like closer to where the water is coming into the building. So like the old pipes or whatever, maybe who knows? Maybe there's lead in the pipes. I don't know. I did bring a little UV filter to when I did fill things from taps. I would use a little UV filter because, like, why not? And yeah, showers. There was only one shower on of the places I stayed. Charging was like first come first served. Like one of the huts I was in just uses like a generator. Like there's no like solar power, which is kind of weird. Like they use these generators. And it was like, I'm glad I charged it early in the day because they just shut the generator off at night. So if you want to charge, like that was definitely like, bring your battery bank and whatever and hook it up, you know. And I use like an eSIM. You get some connectivity. Food, breakfast. I found like I was like, man, Americans know how to do breakfast at least, like because I did not enjoy the breakfasts over there were like crappy bread and like jam and like crappy cheese and like, I mean, I don't know. It just was not like the dinners were great. Like dinners were like 3 course, you know, like appetizer, main, and like a dessert, and they were hearty and good. Lunches like it was funny. I had like a bagged lunch from one place and bagged lunch from another place, and they looked identical, but one was way better than the other. So it's like I don't know. And drinks, yeah, you can get espresso everywhere as you might expect. Beer and wine, which is like super cool. You just be in the middle of your trek and be like, yeah, I'm gonna have a beer now. Um, so I'm not gonna go over like everything I brought, but essentials like for a backpack, I use this 25-liter pack, which was like just bursting at the seams with like every night as I stuffed it full. So I think probably going a little bit bigger is not a bad idea. It rained there, so definitely wanted at least a rain shell. I don't think I brought rain pants. Another party I saw had them and took them off pretty quick, even when it was raining, because you get hot. Leather gloves for the Via Ferrata. Helmet, Via Ferrata set as I showed. Climbing harness. I got this Blue Ice one. Blue Ice makes some really lightweight harnesses. I actually like talked to Black Diamond because I wanted to use my Glacier harness, and they were like, do not use your Glacier harness for that. Like I think Glacier harnesses are just not rated for because you're gonna if you do fall, it's gonna be pretty severe. So I think Glacier harness is not the best idea. Definitely according to Black Diamond. Um, a headlamp for going to the bathroom, emergencies. There are some Via Ferratas that go through some tunnels. If you that one's optional. I brought a towel. I like trash compactor bags instead of pack covers myself. Keep my stuff dry. Definitely needed it. I had this foldable water bottle, which you can, is you know, that or like an Nalgene, something like that, so you can easily like hand it off to be filled. Steripen was my sterilization, and then definitely like an eye mask and earplugs because yeah, those dorms are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did some like yeah, and washing up in like the bathrooms. That's like you know, if you can't get a shower, you can do your little poor man shower in the bathroom. For the clean hut shoes, like because I like wanted to have everything lightweight, including like this is like a super lightweight Diaferata set, and then the hut shoes. I found that the lightest shoes I could find are water shoes. So if you want light shoes, water shoes are as light as they're going to get. Like they're lighter than Tevas or anything like that. Although Tevas are going to be more comfortable, that's for sure. You want a sleeping bag liner is required, and then like I had like a 7,000 milliamp battery, and then I also recommend just getting the Type C charger instead of dealing with the travel adapters because it's like those things are always janky, and like you can get travel Type C chargers, USB-C chargers off Amazon for like $10 or whatever. So GPX routes. There's resources at the end of this, or if you even just search for Alta Via 4, there's basically 2 blogs that have like an incredible wealth of information, and one of them sells GPX routes, or you could email me, I could give you mine. But I would like her site is so great, I would definitely contribute to it. Satellite communicator of some sort, just in case, and Euros, because like I don't think the huts, definitely most of the huts I think didn't take cards. There's 2 main airports you can fly into. I think you can get closer, but every flight I saw was like way more expensive. So reasonable, quote unquote, flights are going to be from Munich or Venice. I think Munich just happened to be cheaper, so I chose that one. I did like a day in Munich when I got there, which was fun. Did like a ghost tour in Munich, which was really neat. And yeah, I like German food, so that's good for me. Although, like, I guess you're in the northern part of Italy, which like borders Austria, so there's like a German influence. Like things are already kind of German inspired there, so you sort of get a mix of Italian and German. Luggage, Alta Via 4 is a point to point, so this this is kind of a challenge because like you're not going to end where you start, and if you want to bring other things with you, you're going to need to store your luggage somewhere. I opted to do number 3, which was just literally carry everything. So I just and I had sort of planned like, oh well, I can buy a shirt or whatever. Like if I need to buy something extra, I can always buy it. But yeah, I just traveled light. I did meet some people who did both I think the radical storage and the stored in a rental car, and it just means you have to like travel 3 hours back to where you started by some mode of transport to go get your stuff. So it's kind of inconvenient. And I think on some of the other ones, they'll actually, like the Alta Via 2 and stuff, they'll shuttle your stuff if you pay for one of the guided things. I did not. I just did everything public transit. But I did meet other people who had done like rental cars and stuff. So day 0, you start in San Candido. You can also start at this refugio up a ways, which is like cheaper. There's not a lot of places to stay here. It was kind of expensive for what you get. I remember wandering around, like not being able to get dinner, like places were not offering it, or I don't know what was going on. I couldn't figure it out. But I did spend a bunch of time in Italy afterwards, and I have to say, like every meal I ate, like I don't even really like Italian food, and I'm like, man, every meal I had there was freaking awesome. So I will say the food was great. So this was the little hotel I stayed in. It's the view. So day 1, you're gonna go, or I went from San Candido to Locatelli. It's 9 miles, around 4 hours, 30 minutes of walking, 4,000 feet of elevation gain. And you have, when you get to Locatelli, there's 2 optional, you can do if you want to tack on these Via Ferratas. There's a harder one, which is Torre di Toblin, and then, which is what I did, which is a 3B. And if you remember, like 1 being the easiest, and then 3 sort of being in the middle. Or you can do this other one that does the World War II tunnels, and that one's like longer. So this is your sort of hiking out of the forest, gaining elevation. This is the alternate place you can stay, and the first place that I hit, the first refugio. It's really, I forget how far it is, but it's pretty close. Had to have my little espresso there because I got on this bus like in the middle of it, like it was still dark when I got on like the first bus. I'm like the only person only person on it. I'm the only person hiking. I was by myself for quite a long time. When I got here, like all the people, I feel like all the refugios, they like have breakfast pretty late. Like getting a super early start was not a thing if you want to have breakfast in the refugios. Like I think Europeans do not like early starts. Definitely talking to Erica's experience where she was in the Dolomites recently definitely confirmed that for me. And you keep gaining elevation. They have these signs, on certain intersections and things, kind of help you figure out where you need to go. And they, of course, there's maps and things. I forgot to mention that I did digital maps. A lot of places recommend these like tobacco maps, which are very detailed and tell you a lot about like the Via Ferratas and all this stuff. And I actually found the digital maps to be really terrible. I bought one app called Komoot, which was like the closest thing I could get. But I feel like all the typical apps don't necessarily have all the paths and things, and they definitely don't have the Via Ferrata information. So there is a digital version of those maps. Like I bought the maps and I didn't bring them with me, and like people had them anyway. They're at the huts, so it's like I feel like I wouldn't bring the paper maps. At least you might get the digital version, and they correspond like the 105. You can look it up on the map to see where you are, kind of thing. This is Locatelli. This is kind of the famous 3 spires, Tre Chime. I don't know. However you pronounce that. Cime? Okay. Cool. You may have missed the part where I said I'm going to butcher everything. So yeah, I'm going to butcher everything. Thank you. This is when I got there around lunchtime and had some sort of sweet treat. 3 towers. And so this is the optional Via Ferrata I did, which is the 3B, and you sort of go to the top of one of those spires, I think. Yeah, it's pretty. And it's like immediately, like this was the beginning of it. Was like get on this ladder and just like start climbing. And then there's like this stuff like ladders just spanning gaps, like, and this ladder's been there for like a million years, so it's like, you're like, please don't break on me right now.
The teller's not going to save you the ladder. Right. That's true.
This is at the top of the Via Ferrata. You can see in my Via Ferrata set, I actually have like an extra carabiner because there's like a slot on here where you can like use that to just like clip yourself to a ladder or whatever, like if you want to lean back or something. But I found that I never used it, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. So this is like the dining room. There, I mean, there's like a lot of. This is just a portion of the dining room. There's like a lot of space, and it's funny. Like when I got in there and I'm like chatting with people. I actually met like a lot of American Americans there. I don't know. Maybe we're all doing it in September, like I recommended. Um, and I'm like having a good conversation, and then like at dinner time, I'm like, oh, like maybe I'll sit with you guys. And then they're like seat assignments. I'm like, okay, now I'm in school now. Like they sat my first night really sucked because they sat me with like two German girls who were like nice enough, but definitely were like only interested in really talking to each other, and they were talking in German, and I would like interrupt them, and they spoke great English, but they were not very chatty. And then there was like I think like a French couple who didn't speak any English, so it was like kind of like lackluster for me. But thankfully, like at other places I could they wouldn't necessarily assign you, or I think no, there was another place where I got assigned, but I ended up having really good conversation with like lots of random people. So that's kind of like a forced socialization going on. Also, the dinner's like at 6:30, and I'm like, as a photographer, I'm like, the dinner and the breakfast time really interfere with like sunrise, sunset kind of stuff. So that was like, I mean, I kind of opted just to be social and do that. But yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer for me. So day 2 was going from Locatelli to Fonda Savio, 7.8 miles, 4 hours 30, 2,200 feet. And so this had not a mandatory Via Ferrata on Route 1B, which is pretty easy, and you'll see a picture or two of it. And then from the Fonda Savio, there's another Via Ferrata rated 3B. You can do. So lots of wild animals on the trail, like this sheep. No, not at all. And this cute cow with the bells. I feel like that's. It. So I had like, and this so my day 2, it was like kind of like threatening really bad weather the whole time, and then actually it started like pouring, and so I spent like I took refuge in the refugio. What time of year? September. Yeah, beginning of September. Which is the most stable. Yeah. I just got unlucky, I guess. It's definitely not like the desert, I'll tell you that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's always like, you can always figure something out. Yeah. Like, this one you can access via car. So it felt like more commercial. I actually bumped in again. I sat down, I was like having whatever snacks and espresso with like this American couple. We were chatting it up, and that was cool. And so this is supposedly like one of the most beautiful parts of the Dolomites, Cadini di Misurina. And this is what it looked like for me. So I was missing something. And so, yeah, this is from one of the blogs. This is what I was hoping to see. Looks really cool. Maybe I'll have to go back. So this is kind of the example of like a 1B is like there's a cable. It's just like, I mean, I think all of us, you wouldn't like, yeah, you don't even necessarily need to. I think I might have clipped into the cable because it's like wet, but it really wasn't that big a deal. These people were from like Texas and definitely having a time of it. And yeah, like here's like one of the ladders on that. It's not too bad. I mean, again, it's like the old rickety ladder is like, I think the worst part of it is like you're like, oh, please don't fall apart on me. Yeah. And then so this is again, didn't get to do this because it was like it towards the last part of me, there was like no pictures because after that picture I just showed you, it was just raining, and it was like I just wanted to get into this hut, get dry, and they like everybody's like hanging all this. There's like a generator room, and the generator room is just like covered in everybody's clothes because everybody's like trying to dry their stuff out. And I really want to do this via Ferrata because look at this, it's just so amazing. I do have to go back. And then like optionally you could do it at the start of the next day. But unfortunately my next day it was very similar. Like it was completely socked in with fog and kind of rainy. So yeah, this next day was 10.8 miles. You can optionally take a bus and skip some of the trail and go into town and get some stuff. But I was like, it's Parker. Parker likes to hike, so I'm gonna hike. I think I was at that point I'd met a bunch of people in that previous hut, and I was hiking with some of them. I think a couple of them went into town, and they didn't have really rave reviews of it, so I think I made the right choice. And we stopped somewhere, some hut along the way, and had a great hot lunch. I don't remember what I had, but it was delicious. There's a 1B Via Ferrata en route, which looks like this. Yeah, at least I got I feel like the dramatic clouds were really cool. And then Vandelli, here's it's no picnic. That's what this hut is all about. And then apparently I translated that. It's like, please bring your garbage back down to the valley because you have to hike up to this famous place. And yeah, I mean, they have to truck. There's no. I remember the last hut. They actually had a tramway set up to deliver their stuff up and down the mountain. It was just like a little basket or whatever. Kind of wonder could a person would a person fit in that? And yeah, this is kind of famous for this beautiful turquoise lake. And yeah, you can day hike to this, so it's very busy. When I got there, it was super busy. But I think the nice thing is if you stay in the refugio, uh, I forget if I before dinner, it's practically empty, and then in the morning there's nobody there, so you sort of get it to yourself. Day 4 from Vendelli to San Marco. This was the hardest day for me for sure, and other people says this takes 6 hours. The 2 blogs that I referenced say it takes 6 hours. It took me 8 hours of moving at Parker pace, and there were people. This was oh my god. So I started out hiking with some people, and then I left them. Once we finished the Via Ferrata, I left them because that's how I do. And then there was there were 6 other people I was hiking with in pairs, and so I got there super early, and I got the first shower of the day, which was great. And the showers are solar powered, so it's the later you get there, the colder the water is going to be. And then there were people who and the hut, the people at San Marco, this is my favorite hut. They were so nice. We told them about you're supposed to tell them what you want for dinner and kind of early. And we're oh, our friends are still on the trail. And they're oh yeah, no problem. When they arrived at 9 p.m., it was crazy. It took them 12 hours or something to do it. 14 maybe, I don't know. But the owner, they were having their own dinner, and they you stepped away and made them. They were please sit down immediately to these people who just looked like the Walking Dead coming in off the they were just so beat, and they just put food in front of them and were so nice, and yeah, it was just such a cool place. Yeah, I think Cortina. Yes, that. This is how I started out my morning on that hike. It was really pretty. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It was a nice family, and they had their kids running around and stuff, and beautiful spot. This is that in the without all the fog, super cool. Yeah. And then this was the non. This is so on the slide it said there's a 3B Via Ferrata en route, and this was definitely as hard as that. Lots of ladders and crazy stuff. And this just went. I feel like this was longer than the other one I went on, where I would say it was probably an hour and a half of just constant traversing and ladders and going up, up, up. And again, it starts out with something very vertical, that you get to this thing, and it's just okay, you're the first thing you're doing is go straight up, which is a little unnerving for sure. This is another couple Americans I met. It's really beautiful. The fog, and you can see in the lower right there is the lake. And yeah, there's definitely exposure to be had. And here's what clipping looks like on this.
How long typically are these sections? 4 hours, 6 hours, full day?
Well, this one was probably the longest one. It was probably an hour and a half or so. That you're it's cables all the way, and then the other things that were en route were kind of sporadic, and it would be oh, you go through a ladder here and a cable here, and it wasn't as, and those were rated 1B, so this is rated 3. I think this is 3B. So yeah. I was lucky enough to see some ibex. the European mountain goats, which I was like, oh please let me see one of these, like, and I got to see a bunch, and I didn't get any video, but they like bounce down this mountain, and like they're looking back, and like I just got a whole entertaining view of them. This path, so it was like way at the top, and then you like drop down to the bottom of that photo, and then you have to climb all the way back up to that pass. And I don't know if you saw at the beginning of this, like the sort of faded photo on this had like it looked like so they have bivouacs or bivvies. Yeah, that thing. So this was like at the bottom of that valley, I think it was. And so if you get stuck in a snowstorm or like you can't make it or whatever, there's like, and on some, like you can actually plan to stay in these. I think it's just first come, first serve kind of thing. Because I saw like there's an Alta Via 5 that's like more remote and you have to stay in a couple of these. Although like looking inside of this thing, I'm like, I would bring a tent because it looked scary. Like, yeah, I don't think I'd want to spend the night. It was very tight too. There's like 4 beds in there and you're like, Yeah, and so this is coming to the end. That's San Marco there, which was really just a great sight after a very long day. And then day 5, so this was going to be a super long day. Unfortunately, the weather called for like snow and stuff at elevation, so I had to like cut my trip. That was the last day for me. Was getting to San Marco. It was like a really tough call. I met like a bunch of people on the trail friends, which was really cool. And then, yeah, this is like, I think that's where I would have been going up there somewhere. And what really sucks is like, I watched the weather in the mountains as I was like getting down and everything. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it would have been okay. Like it eventually weather came, but I probably would have missed it. But I guess you really don't want to gamble with it when you see these photos. You're like, oh, this is like, I don't think I want to be up here when it's raining. Like there's a freaking glacier up here. So, sorry I got to miss it, but probably for the best. And this is like the last hut. So you can do, I think it's like 10 something miles to this guy and then 5 miles from here out. And so like, I didn't plan to stay here. I heard it like, what I read was it's not like the best hut, but like, it's sort of like, if you want to, because you still do all the elevation to get here. And then it's just like a kind of meandering hike out. So I don't know. It's just up to you whether you want to plan that way or not. And then the end of my trip was I booked a hotel and a spa and got myself like a nice hot tub. I got all these like apple strudel and like gelato and the cornetto with pistachio and a beer, and it was delicious. And so that's the end of my trip. If you want to check out some Via Ferratas, we do have some in the U.S. As a bunch you probably know, there's one in Zion. There's one in Tahoe. These are the backpacker.com's best Via Ferratas. And these are the 2 blogs you'll come upon. In fact, like people were like, "Oh yeah, we're talking about Marta on the trail," because like everybody had read these guides, because they're just like blow by blow, day by day, like all the information. So like I would not. I was like so nervous to like book it and like do all the and like these guides, like because I feel like there's not even books that really detail this. So these guides were like invaluable, and these people were awesome that they Brook Beyond. I mean, both of these, they have like great stuff and content in general. Like Brooke like climbed Aconcagua self-guided, and like all these, she's always doing these cool adventures and stuff. I follow her on Instagram, and her guides are fantastic. So highly recommend. And thank you. That's my presentation. Did you stay at any of them?